Suffering starts in the mind. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about something that might change how you see your problems. It's a simple truth: suffering starts in the mind. If you're dealing with real pain or difficulties, this might sound like I'm dismissing your struggles. But I'm not. What I'm sharing today is meant to help you find relief, even in hard times. Let me start with a story. Two people lost their jobs on the same day at the same company. Both had families to support, but their experiences were completely different. The first person immediately started telling himself stories. This is the worst thing that could happen. I'll never find another job. My family will think I'm a failure. He spent weeks in bed, couldn't sleep or eat properly. Every day felt like torture. The second person felt sad and worried too, but he told himself different stories. This is hard, but it's not the end. I have skills and experience. This might lead to something better. Within 2 weeks, he was job hunting and feeling hopeful. Same situation, same circumstances, but completely different levels of suffering. Why? Because suffering isn't about what happens to us. It's about what we tell ourselves about what happens to us. When something challenging occurs, two things happen. First, there's the event itself. Someone breaks up with you. You get sick. You lose money. These events cause pain, and that pain is real and natural. But then there's a second layer. Our minds create stories about the event. We think this means I'm not lovable, or I always mess things up, or nothing ever goes right for me. The event causes pain, but these stories create suffering. And we have more control over this second layer than we think. Think about stubbing your toe. Your toe hurts. That's real pain. But then your mind adds stories. I'm so clumsy. Why does this always happen to me? This day's ruined. Now you're not just dealing with a sore toe. You're dealing with shame, frustration, and anger at yourself. This happens with bigger things too. Someone criticizes your work. The criticism stings for a moment. But your mind adds, they think I'm incompetent. Everyone thinks I'm bad at my job. I should quit. These stories turn moments of pain into long periods of suffering. And most of these stories aren't even true. They're just thinking habits we've developed. So how do we change this? We learn to separate facts from stories. When something difficult happens, ask yourself what actually happened here. What are the facts? Then notice what stories your mind is adding. Your friend doesn't return your text. The fact is they didn't respond. But your mind creates stories: they're mad at me, or they don't care about our friendship. Once you see the difference between fact and story, you have choices. Maybe your friend was busy. Maybe they forgot. Maybe their phone died. These alternatives cause much less suffering, and are often just as likely to be true. This isn't about pretending everything is fine. If someone you love dies, you will feel grief. That's natural. But you don't need stories that make grief worse. Like, I should have spent more time with them, or I'll never be happy again. When you're rejected for a job, the fact is they chose someone else. The story might be I'm not good enough. But it could be they found someone who was a better fit. When someone ends a relationship, the fact is it ended. The story might be no one will ever love me. But it could be we weren't right for each other. Here's a practical exercise. When you're really upset about something, ask yourself, what exactly happened? What story is my mind telling me? Is this story definitely true? Is believing this story helping me or hurting me? What would be a more helpful way to think about this? Imagine you give a presentation and your boss doesn't comment afterward. Your mind might think, the presentation was terrible. My boss hated it. I'm getting fired. But the fact is your boss didn't comment. Maybe they thought it was fine. Maybe they were distracted. Maybe they loved it but had to run to a meeting. You could tell yourself, my boss didn't comment, which probably means it was okay. If there was a problem, they would have said something. Now, some of you might think, but what if the worst case is true? What if I really am bad at my job or unlovable? Here's the thing: even if a negative thought has some truth, dwelling on it rarely helps you improve the situation. If you're not performing well at work, Telling yourself I'm terrible at my job won't make you better. But asking what skills can I improve? Might help. If you're struggling in relationships, no one will ever love me doesn't make you more lovable. But how can I be a better partner? Might lead to real changes. The goal isn't to avoid all difficult thoughts. It's to focus mental energy on thoughts that serve you, rather than ones that just make you feel worse. This is especially important with things outside your control. You can't control whether people like you, whether you get sick, or whether someone makes a decision that affects you. When you spend mental energy on stories about uncontrollable events, you're choosing to suffer over things you can't change. But you always control how you respond. I learned this during a difficult period when everything seemed wrong at once. Health problems, financial stress, relationship issues. For months, I told myself, why does this always happen to me? And things will never get better. These thoughts made everything worse. I was dealing with real problems, plus this huge burden of mental suffering I was creating myself. Eventually, I started separating facts from stories. The facts were challenging but manageable. The mental stories were making me feel hopeless and overwhelmed. Once I stopped feeding those stories, I had more energy to deal with real problems. Things did start improving, not because I changed my thinking, but because I stopped wasting mental energy on unhelpful thoughts. This doesn't mean I became perfectly positive. I still worry sometimes. I still feel sad when sad things happen. But I don't stay stuck in those feelings as long, because I recognize when I'm adding unnecessary suffering to natural pain. Here are some practical strategies. First, practice mindfulness. Pay attention to your thoughts without immediately believing them. When your mind creates dramatic stories, just observe, oh, there's my mind telling me I'm a failure again. Second, ask, is this thought helpful? Some negative thoughts can be helpful. I made a mistake and need to apologize might lead to positive action. But I always ruin everything probably won't help you improve. Third, practice self-compassion. Talk to yourself like you would talk to a good friend in the same situation. You probably wouldn't tell your friend they're worthless. Give yourself that same kindness. Fourth, remember, thoughts are not facts. Just because you think something doesn't make it true. Your mind constantly generates thoughts. You can choose which ones to pay attention to. Finally, focus on what you can control. You can't control what others think of you, but you can control how you treat others. You can't control whether you get sick, but you can control how you take care of your health. When you focus mental energy on things within your control, you feel more empowered and less like a victim. Learning to manage your mind is one of the most important skills you can develop. It affects every area of your life. Your relationships, work, health, happiness, all influenced by how you think about what happens to you. This takes practice. You've probably been thinking in certain patterns for years. It will take time to develop new habits. Be patient with yourself. Notice when you're creating unnecessary suffering, but don't judge yourself. Just gently redirect to more helpful thoughts. Remember, pain is often unavoidable, but suffering is usually optional. You have more power over your experience than you realize. Not power over what happens to you, but power over what you make it mean and how you respond. The goal isn't to never feel upset, sad, or worried. Those are normal human emotions. The goal is to not multiply those natural feelings with stories that make everything worse. You deserve to feel peaceful, even in difficult times. You deserve hope, even when things are uncertain. And you deserve freedom from the extra suffering that comes from believing every dramatic story your mind creates. Thank you for watching today. I hope this perspective helps you find more peace in your daily life. If this was helpful, please like and subscribe. Remember, you have more control over your happiness than you think. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.